What if I ramble on for too much? Ta-da! Take 1. Take 2. Take 3. So guys, today is my first ever Q&A session since I'm joining the part-time YouTuber Academy, and the final week's homework is actually to create a community Q&A video. So I'll be answering a few questions from my community, which is you guys. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Crystal and I'm a pastry chef entrepreneur based in Jakarta, Indonesia. And my channel is about sharing my journey as a pastry chef and building a cake business while sharing some productivity tips, recipes, and also occasional travel vlogs. This is an ongoing process, but I hope that my open journal can help give you some insights, save time for the fun stuff, and live happier lives. So today's goal is to be answering 10 or more of your questions, and I'm going to be asking help from my sister to be picking questions through this ta-da toy that we bought. Like, I don't know where I got this, but yes, we're going to be randomly picking some questions from this toy. I haven't seen any of the questions, so I'm really nervous, but let's go. Okay. Finally came out. Oh, she's gonna take it.
Okay, first question. Do you have a favorite travel destination? If so, could you share a memorable experience from there?
A travel destination. I think a favorite one would be pretty hard, but there was a memorable experience. So I used to go to school in France for pastry school, and before moving back, me and my mom planned a trip go around Europe. And at that time, I was moving out, I had so many things to bring back to Jakarta. So I spent a lot of money on shipping those things back. And I was supposed to go to Barcelona to meet up with my mom before going to Italy and also Switzerland and coming back to different parts of France before going back to Jakarta. So after shipping all my stuff back, I went to Paris thinking that I would have like 3 days before my flight to Barcelona, before I get to meet my mom, to actually visit a few of the cake shops in France. But then I realized that my credit card maxed out just after paying my hotel room, and it's gonna be like 3 days until I meet my mom, so I didn't have any money at all. I think I only had like 10 euros or something. So I decided that I still had to go visit these cake shops. I skipped on lunch and other meals just to go to these cake shops and buy cakes because I thought priorities. I probably won't be going to Europe in a long time, so yeah. I just walked across Paris and visited cake shops. I went to a few free museums and got to sightsee. So I can't really say what my favorite spot is, but that was definitely a memorable experience. So apparently just now when I was rolling the toy, apparently 2 pieces of paper came out already. So I'm just going to ask my sister to read out the second question.
Differences you noticed between what you learned at pastry school in France and Japan?
Oh, that is a very technical question. Just for a bit of context, I went to pastry school in 2 countries, which is France. I was in a small village in southern France called Isanzhou, and also in Osaka for 3 years for pastry and culinary school. And it was called Tsuji Culinary Institute and Institute of Pastry. So I first went to France after graduating high school. The course was 5 months. It's a course for people who are thinking of doing a career change towards the pastry industry. But there were also people I was the youngest in the cohort, and there were a lot of people who have already experience in the pastry industry or maybe in hot kitchen. So it was much more packed because each week was dedicated to a certain category and a type of product in the pastry industry. For example, this week we would be making choux pastry, and the next week we would be making puff pastry. So it was much more packed in the sense that we only have 5 weeks to go through everything. Aside from learning pastry, we were also taught how to speak French because most of us didn't speak French. And after the course ended, there would be an optional 6 months internship where we'll be working at a French pastry shop or bread or cake shop or ice cream shop with a French chef. And obviously they don't speak English, so you would have to be able to understand French to a certain level where you'll be able to work in a cake shop. So it was much more fast-paced. I was a bit overwhelmed. And what else? Oh, I got to do ice cream. The products were a bit different in the sense that French pastry and Japanese pastry is very different in general. But yes, the duration of the course was very different. So aside from the techniques being a bit different, the types of products are different and the flavors are different in general. It was a short course, and in Japan in comparison, it was a 2 years course. So it was much more in-depth. They're very detail oriented, so we got to learn more about the science behind each of the techniques, and it wasn't a week per product category, so it was much more in depth. Another thing to note is that for the Japanese course, we not only got to learn French pastry, but also got to learn about breads and also Japanese traditional desserts, which is wagashi. We got to make mochi, we learned how to make different types of bean paste. So it was fundamentally very different. But if you were to compare, like disregard the duration of the course, I guess how it was different is the detail that was in the French course was more about technique and more practical things, but the course in Japan was much more detail oriented. We got to learn other things such as hygiene, the law in Japan, and how there were written tests as well. So it was very different, and it was like a more well-rounded course on eventually working in the pastry industry. Yes, I hope that made sense. So we were just having a moment like, oh, I don't think I can answer 10 questions in this video because my videos are like 11 minutes long on average, but just the question before just now, I took 4 minutes to answer it. Okay, never mind. Let's just carry on and see how many questions we can answer. So I'm going to be turning it for next question.
If you didn't start pastry business, what would your alternate life path be? Why are you laughing like that?
That is a very tough question for somebody who is very indecisive. So, I had a lot of hobbies. So, for example, even before I decided to go to pastry school, I actually applied to university already, and that was to take nutrition in university. I got accepted with scholarship. It was really a tough decision to make because at the time when I received my acceptance letter, I was doing a home stay in Japan. I was like touring different schools to see, having like a 1-day trial to see if I actually want to go to pastry school. So maybe if I were to do pastry, I considered becoming a nutritionist because all my life I've always liked science-related subjects, and I specifically liked physics, and I also liked programming, so I might have been a programmer or an author because I really like writing and reading in general. So maybe nutritionist, author, and programmer. Yes, those 3 things. Oh, I might also actually really like acting, so I might be an actress too.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received outside of your professional life? How has it impacted you?
I have a younger sister and a younger brother, and we just visited our youngest brother last month in Japan, and he said that you just have to decide on something, because in the end, making decisions isn't about making the option that you'll not regret at all. It's like the 51% as compared to the 49%. It's making the decision that would make you regret the least instead of regretting the most, because in the end, you have to understand that for whatever decision that you make, you're giving up something. Like, you can't get everything, and it's important to understand that, because if you are in a decision paralysis, then in the end you would end up not deciding on anything, and that is already deciding on something, which I feel like is a really broad-ish kind of advice, but it's so applicable to a lot of situations.
What motivated you to pursue being a pastry chef?
Okay, so there's a couple of reasons why. So the first reason was actually the moment where I seriously decided to pursue pastry. It was inspired by 2 animes, which is Yakitate Japan. For those of you who don't know, it's about this boy who has really warm hands that allows him to make really good bread, because the bread starts fermenting when he's kneading it. And the second one is Yume Iro Patissiere, which actually directly translates to dream colored pastry chefs. And in general, I really like animes, which are like sport animes. For Yume Iro Patissiere, I felt like what was special about this anime was also because my school, Tsuji Pastry Institute in Japan, was one of the references that they actually interviewed. They did lots of like research on pastry before actually making the anime. So there were a lot of like techniques that we could learn while watching this anime. Aside from that, it was also refreshing to know that Ichigo, who's the main character, she has a very good palate. She's very passionate about cakes, but has never made cakes before, and is very clumsy. So she had to work very hard to become a good pastry chef, and that was really nice. And the second reason is also because I like creative things like the arts. I used to draw for the school comic, and be in the comic club at school during high school. And secondly, I really like sciences and I liked numbers. So I thought that pastry is a good mix of sciences and also be able to express myself in an artistic sense. And I also like food. So in comparison to the hot kitchen and culinary part, I felt like pastry is more precise in the sense that certain ingredients have certain functions in products, and I'm very interested in being able to know about the science behind it and tweaking the compositions and recipes to create a certain product, which I might try a certain product outside and have ideas on certain adjustments that I would like to make, or ideas of new products, of like combining two different types of textures together. I think that the science part of pastry is really interesting. So that's why I pursued pastry.
How do you balance work and life as a business owner?
You don't. Just a quick note that if you like my videos, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps us a lot. I won't say that work-life balance is a myth, but I'm still in the process of figuring that out as well. But what I feel has worked for me is being able to be disciplined in having boundaries between work time and also outside of work time. And I used to have a lot of issues with guilt of like my business would be having a downtrend and I would feel like I have to spend all of my time working on it. I would feel guilt about having fun outside with my friends, and I felt that feeded the loop in the sense that I wasn't able to be productive at work as well. So I think having boundaries is really important. And also sometimes when you're a business owner and you're just starting out, you don't really have anyone to discuss with. It's really important to not get caught up in the loop of negative feelings. So I feel like journaling has really helped a lot, and also meditation. And having a balance, being self-aware that sometimes there are days that aren't that good, there are better days, and know that nothing lasts is really important in not getting caught up in the loop of thinking that I have to work harder and I don't deserve rest. So being gentle to yourself is a very cliche piece of advice, but I guess it's really important for you to keep in mind to maintain a work-life balance, or at least get closer towards it. This video turned out to be really long, so I'm going to break it down into 2 parts so you can check out part 2 right here. So see you guys in the next one. Bye!